Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. They mocked this old warship, then it showed its true power. Commander Jack Miller stood at attention as Admiral Ford handed him the tablet with his new orders. His face remained neutral, but inside, disappointment churned like a storm. After 15 years of loyal service and multiple commendations, this was his reward, the U.S. Resilient. "Sir," Miller asked, scrolling through the assignment details. Admiral Ford nodded. "I know it's not what you expected, Miller, but it's what Earth needs right now." What Earth needed, apparently, was to send one of its oldest warships on a glorified parade route through Galactic Council space. The Resilient was a relic from before the Void War, a conflict that had nearly wiped out humanity before the Council races arrived to help. Now Earth was the newest, weakest member of their grand alliance, and Miller was being sent to show off an antique. "When do I leave?" Miller asked, tucking the tablet under his arm. "Tomorrow, your crew has already been selected." The Admiral looked out the window at Earth's orbiting shipyards, where sleek alien vessels dwarfed human designs. "Remember, this mission is about building goodwill. The Council saved us. Now we need to show we're worth saving." Miller nodded stiffly. What the Admiral didn't say, what nobody said aloud, was that Earth was still proving its usefulness to its new alien friends. The Resilient looked exactly as it was, a 20-year-old warship that had barely survived the Void War. Its hull was patched in places. Its once sharp angles were softened by repairs in the shadow of the modern ships surrounding it in the docking bay. It looked like a child's toy. Miller walked up the boarding ramp, where a small, welcoming party awaited. His new second-in-command, Lieutenant Tom Reed, stood at the front. "Welcome aboard, Commander," Reed said, saluting sharply. He was young, too young, Miller thought, his bright eyes that hadn't seen enough battle softening. "We're honored to serve under you. Save the honor for when we've done something worth it," Miller replied, returning the salute. "Show me my ship." The tour revealed exactly what Miller had feared. The Resilient was functional but outdated. Its weapon systems were generations behind current standards. Its engines were reliable, but slow compared to the Council ships that could cross galaxies in weeks instead of years. It had been retrofitted with basic Council translation technology and communication systems, but everything else was purely human and utterly obsolete. "And this is your engineering chief, Sam Wilson," Reed said as they entered the engine room. Wilson was elbow-deep in an open panel, tools scattered around. Unlike Reed, Wilson looked older than her years, with calloused hands and eyes that had seen one too many emergency repairs. "Chief, how's she running?" Miller asked. Wilson wiped her hands on a rag. "She's running, sir. That's about the best I can say. They pulled her out of the mothball fleet 6 months ago. I've been trying to get her battle-ready ever since." "We're not headed for battle," Miller reminded her softly. "Just a friendly tour." Wilson's expression said what Miller was thinking. In space, everything could become a battle in seconds. The last crew member he met was the most unusual officer. Gray was an alien liaison assigned by the Council, tall, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Gray's species, the Arkan, had been among the first to welcome humans into the galactic community. "Commander Miller," Gray said, its voice translated through the small device at its throat. "I look forward to helping you navigate Council customs and protocol." Miller nodded politely. "And I look forward to your insights, Officer Gray." That evening in his quarters, Miller reviewed the mission details again. 6 stops at different Council worlds, showing the flag, attending diplomatic functions, and letting Council scientists and military experts study human ship design. It was a zoo exhibition, not a mission. Their first stop was Taylor Prime, home of the bird-like Tellarans who specialized in advanced weapons technology. The Resilient dropped out of FTL on schedule, its engines groaning with the effort. "Communications from the Teller and High Command, sir," Reed reported from his station. "They're sending an escort." 3 sleek Telleran vessels approached, each half the size of the Resilient, yet Miller knew they carried twice the firepower. "They're hailing us, sir," the communications officer said. On screen, Miller ordered, straightening his uniform. The screen filled with the image of a Telleran commander, its feathered crest rising above yellow eyes that studied Miller with unconcealed curiosity. "Commander Miller of Earth," the Telleran said, "welcome to Tiller Prime. We have prepared a berth for your historic vessel." The slight pause wasn't lost on Miller. "Thank you, Commander. The U.S. Resilient is honored to visit your world." The welcoming ceremony was worse than Miller had imagined. A crowd of Telleran officials and scientists circled the Resilient as it docked, pointing and chattering. Miller led his senior staff down the ramp, where they were met by Teller Diplomatic Minister Crack. "Welcome, humans," Crack said, spreading his wing-like arms. "We are most interested in examining your warship. It's so primitive." Miller forced a smile. "The Resilient may be one of our older designs, Minister, but she has served Earth well." A sound emerged from Crack that the translator rendered as laughter. "Yes, I'm sure before you met the Council, this must have seemed quite impressive." Tour of the ship was humiliating. Teller engineers openly scoffed at the Resilient's propulsion systems, and weapons experts chuckled at the rail guns and missile tubes. One scientist even patted a hole, condescendingly remarking, "It's remarkable you managed to survive the Void War with such technology. Truly, humans are resourceful." Throughout it all, Miller maintained his composure. He noticed Reed's jaw tightening and Wilson looking increasingly irritated. Only Gray seemed untroubled, patiently explaining human design philosophy to the Tellerans. At the formal reception that night, Miller stood with a glass of something like wine, watching Telleran officials mingle with his crew. "They don't understand," a voice said beside him. Miller turned to find Wilson, looking uncomfortable in her dress uniform. "Understand what?" Miller asked. Wilson nodded toward a group of Telleran engineers who were laughing. "What it took to build ships like the Resilient. We didn't have their resources or their technology. We built her with what we had, and she fought. She saved lives." Miller studied his ship through the massive windows overlooking the docking bay under the bright lights of the Telleran station. "5 more stops after this," he said quietly. "5 more worlds where we'll be the primitive curiosity." Wilson hesitated. "Unless," she glanced around, then lowered her voice. "There's something you should see, sir, something about the Resilient that isn't in the official specs." Before she could continue, Minister Crack approached, flanked by several military officials. "Commander Miller, we were just discussing your ship's amusing defense systems. Tell me, do you really still use physical projectiles in space combat?" The Tellerans laughed. Miller smiled politely, yet his mind was on Wilson's words. There was more to the Resilient than met the eye. For the first time since taking command, he felt a spark of curiosity about this ancient warship. The reception on Tiller Prime dragged on for hours. Every time Commander Miller tried to slip away, another Telleran official cornered him with questions that felt more like mockery than genuine interest. Finally, as the gathering began to thin, he caught Wilson's eye across the room and gave a slight nod. 20 minutes later, they met in a quiet corridor of the Resilient. Reed joined them, looking over his shoulder. "This had better be important, Chief Miller," he said. "I've had enough Teller condescension for one day." Wilson's eyes gleamed with excitement. "It is, sir. Follow me." She led them to a maintenance shaft near the engine room that Miller hadn't noticed during his initial tour. The entry panel looked ordinary, but Wilson pressed her palm against it in a specific pattern. The panel slid open, revealing a narrow passage. "What is this?" Miller asked, peering into the darkness. "Something not in the official blueprints," Wilson answered, activating a small light. "I found it by accident while doing repairs last month. The passage led to a small room filled with unfamiliar equipment. Unlike the rest of the ship, this space looked untouched by time, clean, modern, and distinctly not standard issue." "What am I looking at, Chief?" Miller asked, running his hand over a smooth console. "I'm not entirely sure," Wilson admitted. "But I found 6 rooms like this hidden throughout the ship. They're connected by passages that don't show up on any schematic." Reed examined a panel of dark screens. "These systems aren't drawing power, they're completely dormant." "That's the thing," Wilson said. "They're isolated from the main power grid. They have their own source." She pointed to a cylindrical object in the corner. That's not any power cell I've ever seen. It's not even using technology I recognize. Miller studied the room, his mind racing. Why would a 20-year-old Earthship have secret compartments with advanced technology? I have a theory, Wilson said. Before the Void War, the Resilient was listed as a tested vessel. I thought that meant routine systems testing, but what if they were testing something else, something classified? Reed looked skeptical. If the Resilient had advanced technology, why didn't we use it during the war? We were losing badly until the Council intervened. Maybe they didn't finish testing it, Wilson suggested. Or maybe they couldn't control it all. I know one thing, this equipment is far beyond our current capabilities, and definitely beyond what the Tellarans think we have. Miller made a decision. We keep this quiet. No reports back to command yet, and definitely nothing to Officer Gray or our Tellaran hosts. He turned to Wilson. Chief, I want you to figure out what these systems do without activating them. Also, run background checks on the original design team of the Resilient. See if there's any mention of experimental technology. Both officers nodded. Miller felt something he hadn't felt since receiving this assignment, purpose. While Wilson explored the hidden compartments, Miller maintained the diplomatic facade. 3 days later, the Resilient left Tiller Prime, heading toward their next destination, a gas giant called Vorko, where the crystalline Vor species maintained massive floating cities. On the 4th day of their journey, Reed requested a private meeting. Miller found him in his quarters, surrounded by data tablets. I found something, sir, Reed said in a low voice despite their privacy. Project Phantom, a black-budget research initiative from about 25 years ago, right when the Resilient was being designed. Miller scanned the heavily redacted documents. What was Phantom? Most of it's classified beyond my clearance, but from what I can piece together, it involved studying recovered technology. Reed hesitated. Void technology. Miller's head snapped up. We had void tech before the war. Reed nodded. Apparently, we had encountered Void Scouts decades before the main invasion. A small ship crashed in the Pacific Ocean. The crew died, but the ship was mostly intact, and they built that technology into the Resilient. Not exactly, Reed corrected. They studied it. They tried to understand it. The Resilient was designed with compartments for experimental systems based on the Voitech, but according to these records, the project was shut down before completion. Too dangerous, too unpredictable. Miller considered the dormant systems Wilson had found. So, the ship was launched with experimental compartments, but without the actual technology installed. That's what the official record says. Exactly, but what if they installed some of it anyway? What if someone continued the project off the books? Before Miller could respond, his calm beeped with Wilson's urgent voice over the comm. Commander, I need you in hidden compartment 3 now. The compartment was larger than the first one Miller had seen. Wilson stood before a holographic display, her face bathed in blue light. I found a way to give these systems minimal power, she explained. Just enough to access their memory banks without bringing them fully online. The hologram showed a 3-dimensional schematic of the Resilient, but not as Miller knew it. In this version, additional structures and systems wrapped through the ship like a second skeleton. That's not all, Wilson said, swiping to a new display. I found logs, text, and video from the original project team. A man's face appeared in the hologram, his expression grave. Project Phantom Log 47. We've successfully integrated the phase shift technology into the secondary hull structure. Preliminary tests show 60% effectiveness in deflecting energy weapons. If we can reach 80%, this could change everything about space combat. Wilson tapped another control, and the face changed to that of a woman with tired eyes. Project Phantom, Log 112. The neural interface is proving problematic. The system wants to connect more deeply than our safety protocols allow. Miller's mind raced. The implications were unsettling. More logs followed, reporting breakthroughs and setbacks, discussions of technology decades ahead of current Earth capabilities. The last entry was from 2 days before the Resilient's official launch. Wilson pulled up a final recording. A different man appeared, his uniform indicating high rank. Order 7734 has shut down Project Phantom. All materials are to be removed from the test vessel. However, will not destroy what we've built. The void is coming, we know this now. They're not sending scouts anymore, they're sending an aura. The Council races won't help us, they don't even know we exist yet. We'll hide the technology within the Resilient, disguising it as a conventional warship. When the time comes, if the time comes, someone will find what we've left behind. The recording ended, leaving the three officers in silence. That was Admiral Jensen, Reed finally said. He disappeared during the first year of the Void War. His ship was destroyed in the Battle of Europa. Miller looked at the dormant systems with new eyes. Somehow I know the Void is coming. Sir, Wilson said, I think I can activate these systems, not all at once, but gradually, system by system. If we do this, there's no going back. If the Council discovers we have Void-derived technology, they'll— What? Reed asked. Help us more. They already treat us like children playing with dangerous toys. Before Miller could respond, the ship's alert sounded. His calm beeped and Officer Gray's voice came through. Commander Miller to the bridge. We're receiving a distress signal from nearby space. It appears to be from a human vessel. Miller exchanged looks with Reed and Wilson. Continue your work quietly. I want to know everything these systems can do, he ordered, hurrying to the bridge. On the bridge, Lieutenant Reed rushed in behind him. The main screen showed static with brief flashes of a distressed human face. Distress signal detected 14 minutes ago, sir, the communications officer reported. It's from the Green Valley, a civilian research vessel. They're requesting immediate assistance. Miller turned to Officer Gray, who stood watching with all four arms clasped behind its back. What do we know about this sector? It is sparsely populated. There is a small human research colony on Doris IV, approximately 3 hours from our position at maximum speed. That's where the signal is coming from, Gray replied. Reed confirmed, checking his console. Helm, set course for Doris IV at maximum speed. Communications, inform Earth Command of our detour. As the Resilience engines strained to increase speed, Miller noticed Gray watching him with an unreadable expression. Is there a problem, Officer Gray? No problem, Commander. I am merely surprised this vessel is not equipped for rescue operations. Protocol suggests contacting the nearest Council patrol. The nearest Council patrol is 2 days away, Reed pointed out. These are our people, Gray. Gray inclined its head slightly. Of course, I merely mentioned protocol. Journey to Doris IV was tense. The distress signal grew clearer as they approached. A message blared, under attack, unknown vessels, please help. 2 hours in, the signal stopped completely. Could be a transmitter failure, Reed suggested grimly. Upon arrival, Miller understood why Doris IV, a small, rocky planet with a thin atmosphere that appeared peaceful from orbit, was showing massive energy readings from its single settlement. Magnify, Miller ordered. The screen revealed a horrifying scene. The human research colony was under bombardment, buildings were in flames, and the research center's protective dome was cracked. 3 sleek vessels hovered above, raining energy blasts on the remaining structures. These are Council ships, Reed said, his voice tight with disbelief. Specifically, Telleran attack cruisers. Miller turned to Gray, whose blue skin had paled slightly. Explain this, Officer Gray. I cannot, Gray replied softly. There must be some misunderstanding. The Council protects its members. Open a channel to those ships, Miller ordered the communications officer. After a moment of static, a Telleran commander appeared on the screen. Miller recognized him from the reception on Tiller Prime. Commander Miller, the Telleran said casually, this is an unexpected meeting. What are you doing? Miller's tone turned sharp. You're attacking a civilian research colony. The Telleran made a dismissive gesture with a wing-like arm. We are conducting a necessary security operation. This colony was engaged in prohibited research. What research could justify this? Miller gestured to the devastation below. That is Council business. Your presence here is not required or welcome. Leave immediately, the Telleran replied coldly. Anger rising in his chest, Miller shouted, Those are Earth citizens down there. If they have violated some regulation, there are proper channels. This is your only warning, Commander. Your obsolete vessel is no match for our cruisers. Leave or be destroyed along with the colony, the Telleran threatened before the screen went dark, and weapons locks were confirmed by Reed. Despite the tension, Miller looked around at his crew, their faces showing fear and determination, and then glanced at Gray, who stood frozen, its 4 hands gripping a console. "You knew," Miller said quietly. "You knew this would happen." Gray's alien features remained unreadable. "I did not know the specifics. I was told certain human colonies were engaging in dangerous research related to Void technology, research that could draw the Void Armada back to this sector. And this justifies the massacre," Gray explained in a measured tone. Reed demanded, "Sir," but the censor officer interrupted. "I'm picking up strange readings from the colony. There's some kind of transmission being sent from the main research building. It's not like anything I've seen before." Miller made his decision. "Red alert, battle stations, helm take us between those cruisers and the colony." As the Resilient moved into position, Miller opened a shipwide channel. "This is the Commander. We are about to engage 3 Telleran attack cruisers to defend Earth citizens. We are outgunned and outmatched, but we will not abandon our people. All hands prepare for combat." He turned to Reed. "Get to the hidden compartments. Tell Wilson to activate whatever systems you can. We need every advantage." Reed nodded and ran from the bridge. The Resilient positioned itself above the colony. Its outdated shields barely deflected the initial warning shots from the Telleran vessels. "They're hailing us again," reported the communications officer. The Telleran commander appeared, his feathered crest raised in anger. "This is foolish, human. Your ship will be destroyed in seconds." "Maybe," Miller agreed, "but we'll make those seconds count." The first real attack came moments later, a barrage of energy weapons that made the Resilient shudder as alarms blared and systems overloaded. "Shields at 40%, the tactical officer shouted. "We can't take another hit like that." Miller gripped his chair as the ship rocked again. "Return fire, all weapons." The Resilient's rail guns and missile tubes responded, but the projectiles were easily deflected by the Telleran's advanced shields. "No effect, sir," reported Miller. Miller was about to order evasive maneuvers when suddenly the ship stabilized. The lights flickered, and for a moment all systems paused. "What's happening?" Miller demanded. The answer came, Wilson's voice over the comm announced, tense with excitement. "Commander, we've activated the first system, a secondary shield array. It's drawing power from the Phantom reactor core." On the tactical display, Miller watched in amazement as a new shield signature formed around the ship. Unlike the standard bubble configuration, this one shifted and flowed like liquid. When the next Telleran blast hit, this new shield dispersed the energy harmlessly across its surface. "Get me firing solutions," Miller ordered, his voice brimming with new confidence. Before the tactical officer could respond, Reed returned to the bridge, breathless. "Sir, Wilson's accessed more systems. The phase shift technology from the logs works. We can modify our railgun projectiles to partially shift out of normal space. They'll bypass standard shields." Miller nodded. "Do it," he ordered, while the Telleran vessels prepared another coordinated attack. The Resilient's weapons were quickly modified. Wilson worked frantically in the hidden compartment, routing power from the mysterious core to the newly awakened systems. "Phantom systems online. Railguns reconfigured. We can fire when ready," she reported. The 3 Telleran cruisers formed a triangle pattern, clearly preparing to finish the annoying human vessel with a single massive strike. "Target the lead vessel," Miller ordered. "Fire when ready." The Resilient's main railgun fired a single, seemingly ordinary projectile that streaked toward the lead ship. The Telleran commander didn't even bother to adjust his shields, obviously confident in their ability to deflect primitive human weapons. The projectile passed through the shield as if it weren't there, then solidified inside the ship's hull. The explosion tore a massive hole in the Telleran cruiser, venting atmosphere and debris into space. On the bridge, a cheer went up from the human crew. Even Officer Gray looked stunned. "Target the second vessel," Miller ordered calmly despite the victory, and prepare to receive survivors from the colony. This fight isn't over yet. As the Resilient turned to face the remaining Telleran ships, Miller couldn't help but think of Admiral Jensen's final log. The old admiral had been right to hide this technology, not from the Void, but from the very allies who claimed to have saved humanity. The remaining Telleran cruisers pulled back to a safer distance after witnessing what had happened to their lead ship. This gave the Resilient precious time to launch rescue shuttles to the surface of Duris IV. On the bridge, Miller studied the tactical display. "They're regrouping. They'll be back with a new strategy once they figure out what we did," Reed nodded. "They'll call for reinforcements. We need to get those colonists aboard and get out of here fast." Officer Gray stood off to the side, its four arms moving in agitated patterns. "Commander, I must protest this action," it said. "You have fired upon Council vessels. The consequences will be severe." Miller turned to face the alien Lizason. "The consequences were already severe when they attacked our colony. I need to know where you stand, Officer Gray. Are you with us or with them?" Gray's large eyes blinked rapidly. I do not understand what is happening. The Council does not attack its members without cause." "Then help us find that cause," Miller said. "What were these colonists researching that was worth killing them for?" Before Gray could answer, Wilson's voice came over the comm. "I've accessed more of the hidden systems, sir, and you need to see this. I'm in Phantom Compartment 6. Miller left Reed in command and headed to the compartment, bringing Gray along. He wasn't ready to leave the alien unsupervised, not until he understood its true loyalties. The compartment Wilson had found was different from the others, larger, filled with what looked like medical equipment surrounding a central platform. "What is this?" Miller asked, stepping inside. Wilson looked up from a console, her face pale. "It's called a neural interface chamber. According to the logs, it's designed to link a human pilot directly with the ship systems." She tapped the console, and a holographic recording appeared. Admiral Jensen's face materialized before them. "If you're viewing this message, you've discovered the Phantom systems and activated at least part of the neural interface. The Resilient is more than just a ship. It's an answer to a question no one was asking. What if we could combine human intuition with Void technology? What if we could create a weapon that could fight on their level?" The image shifted to show schematics of the Resilient highlighting hidden structures throughout the ship. "The Void, they don't pilot their ships, they merge with them. Their vessels are partly organic, forming a symbiotic relationship with their crews. We couldn't replicate that exactly, but we created something similar. The Resilient has a distributed neural network running through its hull. When fully activated, it can link with a human pilot, enhancing reaction times and allowing control of systems that would normally require hundreds of crew members." Jensen's face returned, his expression grim. "I'm leaving this recording because I know what's coming, not just the Void. There are factions within the Council who fear human potential. They've been watching us for decades, and some believe we should be controlled or eliminated before we advance further. If you've activated this system, it means you've discovered their betrayal. The neural interface is the key to unlocking the Resilient's full capabilities." The recording ended, leaving Miller staring at the empty platform. "I knew it," he whispered. "I knew the Council couldn't be trusted." Gray had been watching silently. "This is illegal technology," it finally said. "Merging biological entities with ships is forbidden by Council law for good reason. Such systems are unstable, unpredictable. Is that why the Tellerans are attacking the colony?" "Because they found similar technology," Gray hesitated. "I do not know, but if they were researching neural interfaces—" "Sir," Wilson interrupted, "there's more. The logs show the Resilient has weapon systems we haven't even imagined, but they can only be controlled through the neural interface." Miller looked at the platform, understanding what she was suggesting. "You want me to link with the ship?" Wilson nodded. "The logs say it has to be the commanding officer. The ship is programmed to bond with the highest authority on board." "And what happens to me if I do this? The logs aren't clear. Jensen's team never completed a full test. There were concerns about the mental strain on the pilot." Miller's calm beeped Reed's voice through urgently. "Commander, the Tellerans are moving back into attack position. They've been joined by another vessel, bigger than the cruisers, and, sir, we're picking up transmissions. They're calling in a full council fleet. They're saying we've gone rogue. Miller looked from the neural platform to Gray. If I do this, what will the council do? Gray's voice was solemn. They will declare you an enemy. They will hunt you down. Neural interfaces are considered an abomination, a step toward becoming like the Void. And if we don't do it, if we surrender, those who attack humans will claim they were justified. Your crew may be spared, but you and anyone with knowledge of this technology will be removed. Miller made his decision. Reed, hold them off as long as you can. Wilson, prepare the interface. Gray, you should leave. What happens next will make you a traitor to the council if you're involved. To Miller's surprise, Gray stayed. I have seen enough to know something is wrong within the council. I will stay, Commander. I will witness. Wilson worked quickly, activating the platform and connecting various sensors. It's ready, sir. The process is supposed to be gradual, but we don't have time. I'll have to initiate a full link immediately. The ship shuddered as the first Telleran attacks hit their shields. Do it, Miller ordered, stepping onto the platform. Wilson activated the sequence. Metal restraints emerged, securing Miller in place. Needle-like probes extended from the ceiling, connecting to his temples and spine. Pain shot through Miller's body, and he cried out in agony. As Wilson's voice echoed distantly, neural pathways began connecting ship systems with his own. In the midst of the pain, a transformation occurred. Miller's agony gradually transformed into a heightened awareness. He could feel the Resilient around him, not as a vessel he commanded, but as an extension of his own body. He sensed the shield impacts like blows to his skin. The engines became his muscles, the sensors his eyes. I can see, he gasped. I can see everything through the ship's sensors. Miller perceived the space battle with perfect clarity. The Telleran vessels moved in predictable patterns, their intentions now clear to him. Beyond them, he detected the approaching council fleet, dozens of ships converging on the Resilient. But most importantly, he sensed systems awakening throughout the ship, weaponry beyond anything humanity had developed, defenses that could withstand the most powerful attacks, and engines capable of speeds to outrun any pursuer. Get the survivors aboard, Miller ordered, his voice resonating through every speaker on the ship. We need to leave now. As the last shuttle docked, Miller felt the Resilient respond to his thoughts. The engines reconfigured themselves, drawing power from the Phantom core. The weapon systems came online, humming with potential energy. Sir, Reed's voice came through, filled with awe. What are you doing to the ship? Not doing, Miller replied, as the Resilient hull began to transform, plates shifting to reveal hidden weapon ports. Becoming. The Resilient was awakening, and through his neural connection, Miller understood its true purpose. This wasn't just a warship. It was humanity's answer to both the Void and the Council, a perfect fusion of human determination and advanced technology. They laughed at this ship, Miller muttered, recalling earlier mockery at Tiller Prime. Let's show them why that was a mistake. On a massive Council flagship that had just arrived, Admiral Kren of the Telleran High Command observed the transformation with narrowed eyes. He opened a communication channel to Commander Miller. Your actions constitute an act of war against the Council, Kren stated coldly.